Welcome into this week's episode of the Torah Podcast. Now, before we get into this week's rather remarkable idea from Rav Yerucham Levovitz, that actually a spoiler or a little teaser will hold, with God's help, the answer to preventing future sins and is the foolproof method to taking the next step in our climb to spiritual greatness, which follows with it a visual aid that still is present in these days, yes. Before all of that, I'd like to give a quick synopsis of the Parsha, just so we can get a kind of feeling and flavor of the Parsha and perhaps weave that into the idea. Now, Parsha of Tazria, Metzora, a double Parsha, begins with the laws of human contamination, dealing with a mother will give birth and the subsequent impurity that the mother has to become and go through and how she purifies herself. It gets into the basic laws of this tzoras in the next psukim, the purification process of how a person can get rid of this magical and spiritual ailment and nega that infects the body, even inanimate objects like clothes and a person's house, God forbid. It deals with the laws of the baheres and the se'es, which are types of tsaras, inflammation, burns, if the tsaras is on the head, on the face, baldness, all these different manifestations of this spiritual disease called tsaras. Parshas Metzora deals with the isolation of this individual who spoke lashon hara, who has been inflicted with tsaras and therefore has to leave the camp. His garments become covered in tsaras. The Torah describes how the Kohen has to come and deem that this truly is tsaras, and only the Kohen can truly say and confirm that indeed these splotches are tsaras. And to round things out, the Parsha finishes with very arcane laws about spiritual impurity because of male discharges and female discharges and different bodily wastes or different discharges from the body that can make a person impure, a nida, a woman who menstruates, a zav, a zava. No matter the different circumstances and the nitty-gritty halachos, just an overall feeling of the Parsha are the laws of spiritual contamination and the process and the purification process that we can go through. Now, without wasting any time, I want to jump right into, towards the end of the Parsha, Parshas Metzora, and deal with this Baal Keri, this individual who had some form of a seminal emission, a discharge, and is now impure. V'hinei ish kiseitze mimenu, let me repeat that pasuk, sorry. The ish, and when a male, kiseitze mimenu shechvas zera, will have some form of a discharge, and he becomes impure. This is a tumah, an impurity called a Baal Keri. It's actually one of the lowest forms of impurity. Indeed, this fellow can jump into the mikveh and wait until nightfall, and he is now pure again. But there is one very odd halacha that the Gemara in Brachos, Daf Chaf Beis Amud Aleph, tells us is only applicable to a Baal Keri. The Pesukim tell us that v'hodatam levonecha v'levnei vonecha, that we're commanded to teach our children Torah. And the next subsequent juxtaposed verse is V'ksiv basrei yoim asher amadata lefnei Hashem Elokecha bechorev, to remember the day that we stood in front of God bechorev. And the Gemara makes this juxtaposition into a now halacha, or something that is needed in the case of a Baal Keri. That just like the Torah was given with a certain level of fear, that we stood in front of God and there was a reverence and an awe for God, so too, Torah learning, That first pasuk that said that we should teach our children Torah must also be done with a certain level of fear. Torah must be studied with a seriousness. Torah must be taught to the children with a very heavy head, proper understanding and mindset. And the Gemara concludes from here, Mikan omru chachamim ubale kariyin. But a balkari, this individual who has become impure, asurim, he cannot study Torah. Every other level of tumah, every other individual who has become impure, and even if they are more serious, chamor levels of impurity, they still can study Torah. But specifically and only a balkari cannot learn or study Torah. Why? So perhaps the greatest Baal Chesed to ever live, Rabbeinu Shlomo Yitzchaki Rashi, who comments on this Gemara, who holds our hand through literally all of Torah, explaining each step, each word to us, tells us here the answer. Mikan omru kol hatimeim mutarim beTorah. Everyone who is impure, they still can learn Torah. She'af heim yachon liyos be'ema uvareses. Because although they are impure, they still can have the right mindset when they learn, when they study. Avol balkari, this individual who let his mind wander to places that it probably shouldn't have, eino ela mitoch kalos rosh v'zachos hadas, has shown an inability to protect his mind and has a very kalos, light rosh, light head. Things aren't serious to him. And this individual can't keep Judaism and Torah study serious. So therefore, he's not allowed to study Torah because Torah needs the right mindset. We have here the springboard to this week's idea, to this week's Vard. This Baal Keri, this man who has become impure because he let his mind wander, it's because he kalos rosh. He has a light head. He doesn't seem to give things the necessary seriousness. And that is the opposite of yiras shamayim, of a seriousness, and the way that Torah must be taught, learned, and understood. And if the consequences of this affliction, of this nega, of becoming someone who is a light-headed individual would stop there, that he can't study Torah, dayenu. But it gets worse. The Mishnah Masechta Avos Perek Gimel, Mishnah Yod Gimel, tells us schoik v'kalos rosh, frivolity, and a light head. This kalos rosh, margilin es ha'adam le'erva. It brings a person towards sins of promiscuity, of arayas. And Ramchal in Mesilas Yesharim in chapter 5 explains to us how this happens. How just a little bit of a light attitude, a light head, can end up in such funky places. But when a person has this mindset that, no, it's just a joke. No, it's funny. It was a meme. It was sent to me. Although it was something that was ill-suited, it was inappropriate, then it's a steady decline, step by step, because ultimately it was just a joke. And then the next thing, no, it was just a joke. Frightening words from Ramchal. He continues, Sechok, this light attitude of laughing at anything or everything can bring a person until he's at the level of a shota, someone who doesn't have any intellect. He's literally, according to the Medrash in Parshas Naso, dealing with the Nazir, like someone who is totally drunk, wandering the streets at 4 a.m., up to no good. That is the same as this person who just laughs at anything because there is no Gedarim. It never ends. Everything is just ha-ha, no matter how impure or inappropriate the item is. But we have now here the answer. We have that special cure. The Gemara told us that Torah must be with a certain serious attitude. Yoim asher amadta lahem b'choyrev. And orchas chaim laharosh, summarizes the one and the only way that we can start to take the next step in our ascendance to our greatness. You'll find this line from the Rosh in his Sefer Orchos Chaim LaHarosh in Os and letter Mem. Very short and very direct. Al tinaheg atzmecha bekalos rosh v'yehi moira shamayim alecha. Do not live your life, do not accustom yourself to this kalos rosh, this light-headed attitude. Rather, have the fear of heaven on you. This individual who's laughing at everything and can't take anything seriously, we're taught even Torah doesn't help him. In fact, he can't even learn Torah. And that's a shocking thing to say. After all, it's our only item that we can turn to, our only cure for the Yetzer Hara, as the Gemara tells us. Barasi Yetzer Hara, God gave us an evil inclination, ubarasi Torah tavlin. But he gave us the Torah in which we can fight back with and cure ourselves of this disease. And this person can't learn Torah. How can that possibly be, that he can be denied the one cure? And Rabbi Yerucham explains, because this person is like a cup who's got a hole in the bottom. And the Torah, every time it goes in to try to cure him, it just drips down out of the bottom. It keeps spilling because he just keeps laughing out all of the liquid. But Yira Shamayim, but this advice from the Rosh, from the Gemara, that tells us to add a little fear of heaven, a little bit of a heavy head, a little bit of a seriousness, a little bit of a koved rosh, of a bowling ball head to his life, that will stop up the leak. That will plug the gap. That will fix the cup to let the Torah then start to go to work. So fear of heaven is the way. Moira Shamayim Alecha is the way. Yira Shamayim is the path. So where to start? I'm ready to sign up. I got the pen. Let's add some fear of heaven. Okay, what now? I'm glad you asked. Rabbi Yerucham tells us that the way to begin, the hakidama to, the introduction for fear of heaven, is this, is azivas matzavo, forsaking your lightheaded attitude. Reishis avodasoi bekodesh, your first move, liikones b'matzav shel koved rosh, is to get a heavy head. Koved rosh hi hahakdama liyiras shamayim. A seriousness, a heavy head, is the introduction, the place to begin to acquire fear of heaven. And then Rav Yerucham brings the most extraordinary understanding of this topic from the Alter of Kelm, his Rebbe. The words were that a person should not have a kalos rosh. It means to be light-minded, to act and make jokes of everything. But the Alter of Kelm read the words literally. Kalos means lightheaded, like you're an airhead, you're a balloon, that your head swivels and moves because it's so light. We need to get bowling ball heads. Koved rosh. Koved in Hebrew means heavy. Like if your head is sitting on your neck and it was the weight of a bowling ball, it would just fall forward and look down towards the floor because you have a koved rosh, a heavy head. And the following point, when Rav Yerucham said it, I almost was brought to tears because I thought we might never get a chance to see, or I knew we would never get a chance to see what the Mashgiach was talking about. But then a video of the Chafetz Chaim surfaced, and now we know. I'm reading the words inside in his Sefer, Rav Yerucham's Sefer Das Torah. He's telling us that when we want to steig and grab fear of heaven, we need this heavy head. We need a bowling ball head. And he said, if you want to know what it looks like, you want a visual aid, then watch the Chafetz Chaim walk. You'll see how he's always looking down. And he calls him Shlita. He says, my Rebbe, the Chafetz Chaim Shlita, because he was still alive. And in parentheses here, it says, Zechrono Livracha, because he has since passed away. So we were never going to be able to see how the Chafetz Chaim walked. But then this video, this famous video surfaced, and we are able to witness this idea firsthand at what it means to walk and live with a koved rosh, a heavy head. You see there in the video, the Chafetz Chaim's walking. His head's down. He's not looking out at all the other things. Rosh kavua v'lo misnanea. It's not searching from place to place. Misha rosh malei chachma. And you see a person who's wise, who's thinking. Ene mata rosh listaka litztada v'gam lo benaka husoichik. He's not just going to burst out laughing and playing. You see this in the video. You see the Chafetz Chaim walking. His hands are kind of crossed over one another, walking step by step. You see the hakdama that we're talking about to Yiras Shamayim, and by the Chafetz Chaim, you see the full kinyan and acquisition of a God-fearing Jew in a video that we get to witness. And with this idea, it seems that we've found one really strong approach to this unfair onslaught of immorality that is plaguing the Jewish people in America. You can't walk to the grocery store without seeing something that one could never have imagined. New organizations and groups and shiurim have been created just to try to help people cope and get by from the insane, seemingly at times unfair challenges of immorality and shmiras einayim in the world. And here perhaps we have found a way. A heavy head. A bowling ball head. And the more I thought about this idea, the more I said, yeah, but it's hard. It doesn't seem practical to walk around like the Chafetz Chaim. But then I thought, but if I did, I would guarantee myself that I wouldn't see anything that I wasn't supposed to. And if I did, I've already taken one small step for mankind, for myself, in the ways of becoming a God-fearing Jew. So maybe this idea is hard, to walk around with a bowling ball head. But imagine the gains. Imagine the spiritual rewards. Imagine the rewards and the pleasure, even in this world. So to really bring this point home, to summarize and to conclude, we have someone who experienced becoming impure because of really whatever the circumstances are, whether they were impure thoughts or he just became someone who was a Baal Keri. He immediately can run to the mikvah, but no Torah study, because Torah study is for people that know how to take things seriously and they know when the jokes must end. And it's really a new approach that the two ends of the spectrum, the A and the Z, is the A is the Torah and the fear of heaven. But the opposite isn't just any sin. It's the hole in the cup. It's the laughing. It's the looseness. It's the lightness. It's the frivolity. It's the inability to take things seriously. So here we have the answer. The way to make your cup hold water is to acquire fear of heaven. And the way to begin the acquisition of Yiras Shamayim is a koved rosh, as the Alter of Kelm said, a literal translation, a heavy head. So is this idea perhaps lofty? Is this a challenge? Is this, I don't know, nearly impossible to walk around like the Chafetz Chaim? I don't know. Is it hard? It definitely is. But think of the rewards. Think of how it's going to be impossible for you to be inundated and assaulted with whatever is out there if your head is down. Think of even if we can't do this for one trip to a place that you know will be something impure. Think if we can just do this for 5 seconds at a time, that we can add a bit of seriousness to our life. Plug the hole in your cup. Grab yourself a bowling ball head, and with this, God should see us trying, being osek, to be metaher and mekadesh ourselves down here at least a little bit. And so too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should see that effort and bless us to be mekadesh and metar us that much more until we become truly kadosh, holy, and righteous Jews.